This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio. I'm here with Kent Hilli from Perfect Plan. How you doing today, Kent?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, George. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I asked the same question of everyone for the first question. If I knew absolutely nothing about Perfect Plan, how would you describe the band's music to me?
We just have to release our second album now, Time for a Miracle. The first album was called All Rise, which came out 2 years ago. And, we're five middle-aged guys that have played together for a long time in different cover bands and different tribute bands before. I started writing my own songs maybe 6 or 7 years ago and tried them out in the cover band, and it turned out great. So that was the beginning of the first album and the beginning of Perfect Plan, and a mixture of classic AOR, melodic rock, and the first album is a bit more classic, a bit softer sound than this second album that we're releasing on Friday. So the new album is a bit heavier, a bit bluesier, but still some AOR classic type of songs in there. So it's a very diverse album, I should say.
So I discovered your first album, I think, through an article in Classic Rock magazine. I had never heard of Perfect Plan. And your first album, All Rise, is phenomenal. It's a great, great album. And I'm sure you've gotten the same feedback from others.
Thank you, George. Yeah, it was... I wouldn't say surprised over the response or reactions for the first album. We ourselves thought it was a good album, but it's been quite overwhelming, to be honest. We never did really expect that response that we had for the first album, but we're so grateful for it.
Did you feel any pressure going into making the new album, Time for a Miracle, because the first album was so well received?
Yeah, of course, there was a bit of a pressure on us but I think we quite quickly, it turned into inspirational, really. It was quite inspiring to be in the process with the second album after the first one. And quite immediately after the first album was released, we started writing the songs for the next album. So our plan was to really get out 2 albums as quickly as possible because, having 2 albums when you're out touring is a bit better to have 24 or 25 songs to choose from instead of, 11. We quite immediately started writing for the next album, and it went quite easy, actually. We had about 5 or 6 songs ready within, 3 or 4 months. So the demos were ready after 5-6 months, and everything went quite smooth. So we didn't think that much about the first album, really, and we didn't think about the pressure. But of course, there's some pressure in there. But it's been all inspirational and motivational. From the first album release, really.
The singles that you've put out so far from the new album. Let's talk a little bit.
Yep.
About Better Walk Alone. What were you thinking when you wrote that one?
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of a straight melodic rock with great riffs, and it's definitely a very relationship-oriented type of song. But it's quite special to me as I came to a dead end in a specific relationship, not my wife, but another type of relationship. And, when you come to a dead end, and you just have one way to go, and that's, go separate ways. And, you don't get any further than that. And so
Time for a Miracle, does that kind of have a little more meaning with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, you could believe that. But actually, to be honest, I watched television just one day and saw Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump going at it. And that was a bit of a scary period, really, because everyone thought that it's between North Korea and the USA. So everything good, but I started to write the first lines when I saw them on television, on the news. So it was really about that, and giving the perspective that living in Sweden in a very safe environment, and describing the feeling if the war could come to Sweden or anything bad could happen. Really, that we're not used to. So it's really a song about giving that perspective. So it's basically about, it suits quite well in the current situation we have in the world. So it's up to everyone to interpret the song as they want to. That's the fine thing about art, So
exactly, and that's why I like talking to people about their songs, because I'll interpret it one way and then they'll tell me the other way, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and that's fine, and that's really what we want our fans to do, take it and interpret it as you want to do it. And, if it means something special to you, and if it's personal, or if it's anything else that you want to interpret it, it's fine. And that's how it should be, I think.
Right. The third song you've put out from the second album, Time for a Miracle, is Heart to Stone. Yeah. So I'm going to say this is probably related to that bad relationship and Better Walk Alone.
Yeah. That's also kind of a, relationship oriented song, but it's really, that's also a very special type of relationship. To begin with, when I wrote that song, you could think that it's about my wife or it's about your direct partner, but it's actually not. It's another type of relationship. So meeting someone cold, and narcissistic type of personality that you can't be around that person, you just have to turn around and never look back.
Exactly. That's kind of something everyone can relate to.
Yeah, I think so.
And great music is, at least lyrically, if you can relate to it, the songs.
Yeah, I think that is what I try to do. And I write songs that I want to listen to myself. And I grew up with influences like Giant and Survivor and Foreigner and Europe and the Whitesnake and those bands, and they have in common that they have lyrics that you understand and can relate to. So that's what I try to do when I write songs.
So speaking of those bands that you named, actually, especially Giant, prior to this album, you put out an EP of cover songs, and one of them was actually a Giant cover. I didn't think anybody knew Giant besides me. But
no, exactly. Yeah. No, that's one of my all-time favorite bands, and I just love Dan Huff. He's a great producer today, also in Nashville, and he's one of my all-time favorite guitarists and singers, and songwriter. So I think they're among the absolute top 5 best bands through all times when it comes to AOR melodic rock. And the first album when it came out, Last of the Runaways, I just fell off my chair when I heard that.
Yeah.
It was so different and so good. I still listen to those first 2 albums, at least a couple of times a week. It's so good, and you never get tired of those songs.
No, I agree.
And the third album as well, in 2001, Giant 3, is also a very good album. But I think my favorite one is Last of the Runaways, the first album.
It's a good one.
He's a huge influence of mine, and probably you can hear some influences of that. You don't think about that when you write songs yourself. It just turns out that way because you've listened to so many songs and so many different bands over the years, and when you write your own stuff and you just don't think about it, it just turns out that way, that it's very influenced maybe by Giant or Foreigner or Survivor, because it's really in your genes.
Yeah, basically, I think I have a theory that music doesn't get any better than when you were a teenager and listening to music. Like, you always compare it to the stuff you listened to when you were a youth.
Yeah, and everything when you're young is everything what you're experiencing is so intense, you know. So everything that you experience as a teenager or going through, it's so intense, and the feelings you have is so intense. So when you listen to music and, you know, you get that intense feeling about them. So, and it just follows you through life. So that's, yeah.
Is AOR popular in Sweden?
Well, you know, it's not mainstream, you know, but it's quite popular, you know. It's hard to describe really, but Scandinavians are quite good at AOR and melodic rock. And, you know, we got bands like Eclipse and Work of Art, to name a few bands. We're quite good at it. And there's a big tradition of AOR melodic rock in Sweden. And the ones that maybe have carried the AOR flag in Sweden and melodic rock flag is, you know, bands like Europe and Treat. And we have a current band called Heat, which is a great band, really great band. So they're one of my favorites as well. I just love, I love the first singer Kenny Läckermo, and but I just love Erik Grönvall. He's like a power station, you know. He's amazing. So I don't know. I think it's a tradition, and I think it's. I think every community in Sweden work very hard with giving bands and young people the opportunity to be able to do music. That's a huge part of going in school and you know, growing up as a teenager in Sweden. Music has a big place in Sweden, and you know, we have other exports like ABBA, Ace of Base, you know, there's there's Max Martin, and you know, so it's a huge tradition. But when it comes to AOR melodic rock, I can't really say how popular it is, but I think we have some share of the market. Yeah.
Now that you're a working band, you're in the music industry, have you met any of your musical heroes, like Survivor or guys like that?
Yeah, we met FM and Steve Overland in Milan when we were there, Frontiers Rock Festival. He's one of my heroes, and I listened a lot to, you know, Tough It Out and those records growing up. And so that was amazing to meet him. And I met Kip Winger, amazing guy, and so nice, and just an amazing talent. So he played there just with an acoustic guitar, and that was just he blew everyone away, you know, with just one acoustic guitar in his voice. So, and his song,
he played here. He played here a couple of years ago doing that.
Yeah, really great guy, and I had the opportunity to work with Dean Castronovo and you know, Johnny Gioeli on the Restless Spirits album.
Yep.
And with Tony Hernando. So that was also great fun. And hopefully as you know, things go, you know, you have the opportunity to meet a lot more of your idols.
Right.
So to say. Yeah.
Do you do anything else outside of music?
Yeah, you know, everyone in the band has full-time jobs.
Right.
So at the moment. So but we'll see how things turn out. You know, just having one album out and an EP, you don't get to earn that kind of money to be able to stop working. But I have a couple of other musical projects. So for the time being, I'm working full time with music, and I study a bit on the side as well. So I'm studying psychology at the moment. So
awesome.
Yeah. So music and psychology is on the schedule for me. No, I'm very fortunate to have a couple of music projects within Frontiers this next coming year. So that's going to be great fun. Nothing that I can talk about really.
I mean, Frontiers has released your first and second album. How did you find Frontiers, or did Frontiers find you?
It was really something in between, because when we had recorded the first album, and we also had shot a video for In and Out of Love, so we just thought that, you know, okay, we'll shop around a bit and, send the demos to, or the record to different labels. So, but we never got around to send it to Frontier because someone else did it before we did. So now basically the story is that, our drummer Frederick was at a cover gig in Umeå, a town, about 10 Swedish miles from our hometown. And the singer for the evening was Robin Eriksson from Degreed, a band in Sweden, a melodic rock band. Yep. And they started talking about, songs and their own bands. And Frederick had Robin to listen to In and Out of Love and saw the video and some other songs. And he said that, I know a guy in Stockholm that knows Serafino. So how about me sending him those songs and we'll see what happens. And a week later, I got an email from Serafino that wanted to sign us immediately. And so that's basically the short story of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And, they beat us to it. So, of course, we had in our minds, the vision was, imagining having a record deal with Frontier. So that was really a great a dream come true for us.
Now, you're kind of a older fellow like me. And did you do anything before Perfect Plan? Were you in bands before that, or has Perfect Plan just kind of been playing the clubs and bars before kind of saying we're going to do all original now?
I started very late with music and singing, and I started just playing the acoustic guitar when I was 33 years old and started singing. I had been a football player or a soccer player, as you say in the States.
Yes.
So I had just ended my soccer career and wanted to do something else. And so I started to learning the acoustic guitar. And of course, I had been singing in the shower as everyone else. But it was a friend of mine that discovered that I had a voice. And he said that you need to do something with that. And hopefully.
Well, thank you for talking to Metal Express Radio today.
Thank you, George. Thank you for having me.